Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I have another portable monitor, and this one is from Ofiyaa and another company called Copgain. They have come together to produce what I think is probably one of the more interesting monitors that we've seen in the portable market. Looking at the picture of the device on the box is not super exciting, but there are several features that put this thing, in my mind, a cut above some of the more traditional kickstand-based monitors that we've seen out there. So if we flip this over, we will get some of the specs on the back and begin to reveal the special features that come with this. So we do have a stand that's built in that allows for a landscape or a vertical display, or a adjustment on the bottom so it can be just tilted up ever so slightly like a tablet. Some of the display specs are here, but I will give you the additional information. So it is a 15.6-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS touchscreen monitor, and it does have that onboard keyboard. It has that built-in stand that we can see here, and we'll unpack that and take a look in a minute. The panel itself is an IPS 300 nit, 72% NTSC, 1000:1 contrast ratio. A few other things to note is that there are two downward firing speakers for audio, one downward firing speaker for the keyboard sound when you're typing on the screen, which is a very interesting addition. I'll see how that works out. The on-screen keyboard does feature 9 different languages, so it may or may not support the language that you need. I'll try to find out the languages supported and put them up on the screen here for you. And before I go too much further, I will also mention that this retails for about $269 to $336, which is about the midpoint of what you'd expect to pay for one of these. But given the amount of stuff that's built in, I'm actually pretty excited to see what it actually looks like when we open it up. So let's go ahead and do that now. We've got a slipcase cover here that we'll remove. We've got a lid that comes off, some pretty high density foam, and then we have the device itself sitting in the box. We'll pull that out and put that there for you. And inside we have 2 USB Type-C cables. We have this unique device here, which essentially allows you to plug it into some older laptops. And then underneath here, we have all of the information. So we have ourselves a full color user's guide, and it's in a few different languages, and it shows you how to get this thing running on Mac as well as Windows OS. We also have a quick start setup guide that shows all of the different modes, what's in the kit, how to essentially use this. So this is a card that you're going to want to keep around for your reference. So let's tidy this down and take a look at the monitor itself. So first things first, we do have this protective sheet on here, and the protective sheet actually tells us what we've got going on in terms of our ports. Now that's good, but it's also bad. And it's probably one of my only real gripes with this whole thing, is that if you kind of need to remember what all of these are, because there is no markings on the side. So the bottom one is your power delivery. You've got an LED. You've got USB 2.0 for accessories and all that good stuff here. And then you have the USB Type-C at the top to actually go to the computer. And then you have what is simply called key up here at the top, which I'm going to guess somehow gets you into all the menus. And it reminds you to not squeeze, don't shank anybody with a knife, and to remove the protective film. I am going to keep this protective film handy because it's a bit of a cheat sheet for all of the things that I need to remember how to do. Now that we have the film off, we can see that our bezels are a little uneven, but that's not really that big of a deal. You got to put all the guts somewhere. And then on the back, we've got a whole lot of exciting things happening here. So the first is we have 2 stands. And they're both very rigid. We have this position here, which just gently puts this thing up off the desk. We can increase that by flipping out these feet here for a slightly more increased angle. And then, of course, the real show stealer is this stand that is literally just built right into the back, which allows you to prop this up and spin it around, silently I might add, at just about any angle that you might want. Now, keep in mind that not all angles are going to be friendly in terms of like this thing falling over, so you just want to be aware of that. I could definitely see this being very useful for like a mobile point of sales thing at a kiosk, spinning it around, collecting customer information, confirming orders, lots of stuff like that. And then if we bring our attention to the back again and just lay this thing down gently, we can pull out this metal bracket here and move it over and insert the metal bracket into the other side to allow the same thing in a more vertical orientation. The one thing that I will note with the vertical is you don't have quite the same level of tilt and flexibility before this thing is going to fall over, but still impressive and very thoughtful to have the feature nonetheless. In other words, I can't think of a single angle where you're not going to be able to put this and be pretty happy with it. Now, the one thing that we are going to have to look into is whether or not the tilt happens automatically or if we need to kind of help it out a little bit. So we're going to need a laptop to test that with, and it just so happens I have my trusty X1 Nano hanging out over here, just waiting to have a monitor plugged into it. To do this, I will need one of the USB Type-C cables included in the package. Got our monitor turning on, and we've got it displaying. And let's see what the key does. So we press the key once, it says loading. And we do have our on-screen keyboard here. And it is worth noting that you can use the reduced touchscreen up top to manipulate things, and then you can use this bottom screen to type, which is pretty slick. Pressing the power button again does bring it back up. So the question, of course, is how do we get into the menus? And that is where we're going to refer to our manual. All right, so to gain access to all of the other settings here, one just actually just takes 2 fingers and swipes up or down in the middle of the screen, and it gives us the menu for brightness, which we can turn up. It's currently at 50%. So that's maximum brightness. We've got sound. We've got color profiles, warm, standard, and cool. We've got a rotation button, so depending on which orientation we have this in, it's not going to do it automatically. So a couple other things to note about the on-screen keyboard. If you want to change the language, you hold the function key plus F9 to go through the languages. To change the key sound, you hold down the function and then F10 to cycle through the options. One thing I will say, the 2 speakers here at the bottom, you can definitely say that they are present, but I would certainly not call these things loud. So overall, it's nice to see a little bit more innovation come from Ofiyaa and Copgain on just what a monitor can be. The inclusion of this swivel component, I think, is going to get a lot of people thinking about the different environments that a monitor could be used in, especially now that we have one that supports touch along with everything else. So to me, again, this is like the excellent solution to a portable kiosk or anything where a touch and swivel monitor is going to allow for a much more interactive experience. Could be during presentations, school projects. I think the sky is kind of the limit with something like this. And the fact that it's not that much thicker or heavier than a lot of your standard monitors out there is going to mean it's an attractive option. I'd like to thank Copgain and Ofiyaa for supplying this. This one was obviously sent to me for testing and was not personally purchased, but my reviews and opinions of this, of course, remain my own. If you do have any questions, make sure you're leaving them in the comment section downstairs. And if you want to be notified the next time I look at a cool product like this, I'll leave some YouTube stuff over here for you to check out as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.